All these rugs, they'll be the death of you one day, mark my words. He remembered his sister, Eunice Guernica Rubens, warning him on more than one occasion, as she stomped around his sitting room, pointing with disdain at the ever-growing multitude of crinkles, creases, and turned-up corners. I mean, look at the state of them, Pablo. They're shabby and mangy like run-over carcasses riddled with lice. Get rid of them, for God's sake, before it's too late. I'll have you know that 2 of them are rare Persian pieces. Extremely rare. Mr. Rubens had always riposted to Eunice's theatrical gesticulations and dismissive rude noises. But although he had not heeded her advice and the rugs were all still there, crinkled and creased, corners turned up, if nothing else as a mark of respect for his sister, he now always manoeuvred around them as though traversing the most dangerous minefield. Tap, tap. Tap, tap. Insipid or not, as far as Mr. Rubens was concerned, impatience was rarely not impertinence and was always impolite. While he muttered to himself words of elderly indignation before opening the door, high above the frames of his strong varifocals his pair of unkempt eyebrows, 2 predominantly black for his age, rose and fell, folding into crinkles like his rugs. Yes? Uniforms had always made him nervous, and as he tried to smooth his face, he worried he had sounded too testy. Special delivery for Anthony Pablo Rubens, the postman answered in a monotone. That's me, Mr. Rubens confirmed with a hesitant smile. Special delivery, the postman repeated, handing Mr. Rubens a large brown envelope. His voice might be dull, but his uniform was clean, his tie well knotted, and his pencil moustache perfectly groomed. There had been some improvements, not even Eunice could have argued with that. Mr. Rubens may have never been particularly partial to moustaches, but this was a presentable young man who took pride in his appearance, and for that he deserved to be commended. Not explicitly, perhaps. Any compliment might come across to him as lewd insinuation. He distinctly gave the impression of being very straight-laced. No doubt drummed into him at school as part of the more general indoctrination at the heart of the modern curriculum. It was apparently a quality demanded of all public servants. Mr. Rubens found it too militaristic. He couldn't help hoping that when he was off duty, the postman was more natural and able to relax and have fun, as all young people should. But in the world of New Britain in 2030, sadly, the reality was likely to be different. Poor kid, thought Mr. Rubens. Even though he's barely out of his teens, he's probably been married off to a government party fanatic who's borne him 2 children already. All the same, he was very good-looking. There was something very crisp about the symmetry of his features, also understated but accentuated by his cheekbones and somehow enhanced by the boy's total lack of expression. Yes, it was his boyishness Mr. Rubens found attractive more than anything else. Wooden like a still life of a young man at odds with his good looks, he reminded Mr. Rubens of himself in the early 1980s, almost half a century ago. While Mr. Rubens looked him up and down, from the tip of his cap to the pistol in the visible holster round his waist, all the way down to the lustre of his polished black shoes, the young postman clung to his impassiveness tenaciously, staring straight ahead, at nothing in particular as far as Mr. Rubens could tell, and certainly not looking Mr. Rubens up and down. Tall and trim, no heavier now than he had been in his 30s, and still able to maintain an erect, upright posture in spite of his age, Mr. Rubens towered over the postman by several inches, the young man's indifference barely grazing his shoulder as it flitted into several directions at once, magnified by Mr. Rubens' varifocals. Bowing his head just a trifle to the right, Mr. Rubens cleared his throat before pointing with a finger at the prominent sign that invited every caller to "please ring the bell." It annoyed him that since he had put the sign up, and his own sister had wired practically every room in the house with a separate buzzer, no one rang the bell any more. The postman looked vaguely at the sign before turning back to face Mr. Rubens' varifocals with a squint. He's got 2 rolling eyes and doesn't seem able to focus, thought Mr. Rubens, now regretting he had made such an issue of the sign for the bell. But the postman seemed unfazed. Handing Mr. Rubens a clipboard and pen, and this time a little bit louder, supposing perhaps that Mr. Rubens was deaf, he continued to look hither and thither as he spoke once again in a grueling monotone.